Hey, it's Lori Lewis, the director, with another episode of the Before the Big Day podcast, YouTube edition. Before we get into today's episode, I'd like to remind you, please subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on so you know when a new episode is available. Also, give me a thumbs up so I know you got some really good wedding planning nuggets from this episode. This podcast is for all of you who are wedding planning, who are trying to avoid going into debt for your big day. And you need the advice from those who have firsthand knowledge and experience, those wedding industry professionals from across the country, and those real life couples who have been through what you're experiencing and want to share their testimonies. So without further ado, enjoy. Hello, everyone. It's Lori Lewis, the director, with another episode of the Before the Big Day podcast. Every now and then, I ask real life couples to come on the podcast and share their stories and give their tips and advice and just share their whole wedding planning experience to, again, fit the objective of what the podcast is. And so I'm excited to actually have this guest today who is my soror. She's a newly married wife, or newly married wife, and she's also a pastor of Smith Chapel AME Church in Inkster, Michigan. And she is here to do exactly what I said, and that's to share her story on how she went from elaborate plans to doing more of a micro wedding, and just some advice to those, because I have clients who are also getting married and having to reduce their sizes, change their venues. So just want to share your story. So in the guest chair today is the Reverend Katrese Kirk McKenzie. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Lori. I'm just super excited and honored to just be able to share our story.
Yes, thank you so much. So go ahead and let's begin with the engagement and how you got engaged. How soon after getting engaged did you actually start wedding planning?
So we got engaged in June 2019, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when it was coming. So he definitely caught me off guard. It was a week after my birthday, and I thought it was going to be the week earlier, but a girl can't really get an attitude that she didn't get proposed to when she thought she was going to.
Right.
And so we got engaged in June and began putting ideas out there right away. New Orleans, Louisiana is my favorite city, my absolute favorite city. People ask me this question previously traveling globally for work. They'll say, what's your favorite city? And yes, I love Paris. And I spent a lot of time in London for work, but I love New Orleans. And so I remember the first trip that we took together in New Orleans before getting engaged. I said to him, I would love to get married in New Orleans. And he's like, I could see that too. So immediately we started thinking about this Enola wedding, such a great city to bring our friends and family to.
Yeah.
I started doing all the research that, every new bride does. Now we have so much more. I mean, not just the magazines, but there's some amazing platforms out there, social media accounts, blogs, that really have kind of like pointed you in the direction of some of the best venues, but also great planners. And one thing that was really important to us, initially in planning, was wanting to try to find a Black wedding planner, someone to be able to support our day and, celebrate our Black love. And so we did find that. And we took a trip. So we got we got engaged in June, and we went to New Orleans in August. And we had a couple of venues picked out. We had a couple of planners that we wanted to meet with. And I mean, this was an intense trip because I'm a pastor, as she said, and I needed to get back for something from church. So it was like hitting the pavement in 24 hours. Right. And I was in love with the Marigny Opera House. Solange, Beyonce's sister, had gotten married there. We checked that out. I love the vintage steps and just really this almost very captivating beauty of that. You don't need to do a lot to this venue. You just have to let the venue speak for itself. But then someone told us to check out St. Peter, St. Paul Church, which is this beautiful church in New Orleans. Okay, you're familiar. Yes. So fell in love with both of those and had actually made the decision that we were going to get married at the church. And then, of course, you got to have, you got to have your walk, you got to have your umbrellas, your Enola, and we were going to go over to the Marigny Opera House and have our reception there.
Okay.
And COVID hit. It became a very big real factor. And if you remember, New Orleans was kind of the epicenter of the South because of Mardi Gras. The cases, the surges were extremely high. And so my husband is a very cautious guy. He's very practical. I was like, I don't think any of us could have anticipated that even a year later, this is where we would be. But I thought there's no way that this is going to last as long as it's going to last. And he's like, we were really at the point where we were getting ready to put down some crucial deposits right at the kind of the onset of, COVID. And he goes, I think we should wait. And I'm like, really? Well, what if we just push back? What if we just push out? And so initially the venues, were great. They didn't know what to expect either. And, we had communication with both venues, but it was just looking like it was not going to be the safe and wise decision to go and get married there and invite guests.
Yes.
The other thing that happened is we were surviving this pandemic together, and like, I knew I loved him, but then I really knew I liked him. And I was even more eager to be, to jump on and get married. So we had to begin to look at some things differently. And the challenge was when we started rethinking where and how we would get married, there were not a lot of solutions out there. Even as we were looking at places. So we're here in Michigan, but we both recently came to Michigan from Chicago.
Right.
Initially looked at home because that just seemed like the logical choice. And, everyone was saying, well, we're in this phase and we cannot book anything with you until we're at this phase. And you're like, okay. The other thing that became very apparent is that there was going to be safety in being outdoors. I wasn't the girl that really dreamed of an outdoor wedding per se, because I love something that's unique and vintage, and not that you can't find that outdoors, but the venues I just shared with you in New Orleans have a lot of character and history. And so I'm like, how can we combine outdoors, get that character and history, all into one? So one of my friends was talking to me about, beautiful church ruins. I'm like, yeah, Ireland, like how are we getting there?
Right.
And she did what any smart person would do in this new age, Google.
Right.
And she began to Google places, and we found the old Baum Church in Waterloo, Illinois. I'd never heard of Waterloo, Illinois.
Wow.
This venue was absolutely beautiful, was a hidden gem. And that made me even more excited. A lot of folks did not know about it. This is a church that had caught on fire many years ago. I want to say most like 50 plus years ago. And it was on a family plot, family land, a family graveyard out nearby, and just kind of sat there. In the year 2014, a couple was driving down this country road and goes, oh, it'd be really cool to get married there. They do the research and they find this family who owns this plot of land, and they go, well, we never thought about that. You want to get married here? Okay. And then it became a venue, but still really not a venue that a lot of people know about.
Sure.
But it was the perfect venue for us because Waterloo it's Southern Illinois. So it's about 30 minutes from St. Louis. So it gave us a metropolitan city to be close to for florists, for wedding planning, for all those other things that we would really need. And then my parents actually live in Springfield, Illinois, which is about an hour and 45 minutes from there. His family is in Chicago. And so again, it was perfect because it was drivable. In the pandemic, a lot of our family was still really leery about flying. It was just still so many uncertainties at that point. So here, this amazing, magical, beautiful venue that really not many people knew anything about, surfaces, and we jumped on it right away.
And it's beautiful. And I did not know it was a burnt down church.
Yeah, wow. The roof on this church burned, but the walls, as you could see, remained intact. And just, when you think of something that burned, you think of a burnt out, but this just did in such a beautiful way that it just created this beautiful shell of a building with character and history. And they've allowed the vines to grow and the florals to grow, around it. That just creates almost this magical, very ethereal church in the middle of this gorgeous field.
Yes. An awesome backdrop for your wedding pictures too, right? So, and you did everything there, the ceremony and the reception, if you call it that.
We did everything there back to safety. just had so many concerns. My mother, who was excited to see us get married, she was my checks and balance because sister had like 50 questions for me. You know what I'm saying? Well, we'll just do everything there, mom. So we keep the outdoor space. And so then there came, what do we do about food? And so I still wanted to get creative and unique. And I thought, food trucks food trucks.
Right.
And so, like, who doesn't love a taco? That immediately alleviated on catering, someone serving, hovering over the food, a lot of interaction. It cut down on that immediately. And it was something fun because everybody absolutely loves tacos. Now, I wasn't looking at a taco week. I was looking at a plated menu before with like a Creole cuisine, but it was perfect for that. And then we got a cupcake truck. And so we had a very tiny, just for the two of us, personal wedding cake that we cut for pictures, but everyone loved the cupcakes. I mean, like the cake was this just for the moment. These were amazing cupcakes. And these were two vendors that came out of St. Louis. And it really just made it really, really cool.
So you were able to actually, you were how far from St. Louis? An hour?
We were about 30 minutes from St. Louis. That's where I actually got dressed and took my getting ready pictures. We rented out this beautiful mansion in St. Louis.
Okay.
And that created the backdrop for getting dressed. They gave us still that feel. It's interesting because it was in New Orleans, but it kind of gave you that kind of Gothic feel in the mansion. It had a lot of beautiful Art Deco and chandeliers that gave us a feeling while getting dressed. And it's really funny because after everything changed, I just released and said, okay, I'm going to let this be what it's supposed to be and no longer try to fight what I thought that it would be. And it's amazing that once I released that, it all came together because I don't know if I said this all came together in 3 weeks. When we called this church and said, what dates do you have available? It was June, early June, maybe second week of June. They said, we have July 11th. Wow. And I look at my fiance and I go, can we do this? And he's like, yeah, okay. If you think we can do it, let's do it. Wow. And the thing that I think that was so amazing about that, many times, as brides, you're going back and forth, you're indecisive, you're changing your mind, you're overthinking everything. There was no time to overthink. I had to trust my gut. I just stayed true to what I thought was real for the two of us, what would make us happy, what would make our families happy, what would keep everyone safe, and just had to make the decisions that way.
And so when you went to New Orleans originally, it was August 2019.
Yes.
Okay. And the wedding is July 2020. Was that always going to be? What was going to be in New Orleans?
No, it wasn't always going to be July. It was going to actually be in August. So it was going to be a year later from when we went to look at the venue.
Got it.
We didn't feel good about New Orleans. Like it wasn't going to happen for us. Yeah. So it kind of even moved up time a bit, but it was a complete, everything changed. My dress changed. How could I forget to even say that? So
I was going to ask you about that. Did you already have a dress because you were still working within a year? So how did that come about?
So my dress was made by a fabulous Black wedding designer, Lori Bride. She's Detroit's own, grew up in Detroit, Project Runway, and has a studio in Chicago. I went to visit with Lori and sat down for initial consultation and design in December of 2019.
Okay.
My mother-in-law went with me and, share with her my vision, and we were working on designing a dress for that look.
Okay.
Once the pandemic hit, she sent me an email and, kind of, where are you? Keep me posted. I know there are lots of cancellations. And for a while, it was just like, I don't know where I'm at. Once we pull the trigger on this date and this venue, I call her and I say, so I've got a new date and it's in July. She's like, of 2020? I'm like, yes, it is.
Right.
And she is so amazing because we went with a total different look. That was not the dress I had intended. Wow. Completely different design. She created that dress in a matter of 3 weeks. I had one fitting with her. Where I'd already started the other fittings in the other dress. She'd already started to fit some of the pieces on me. I was initially going with a dress that had a beautiful fitted, almost kind of more of a mermaid style, but then it had this dramatic cape. And then I went to this ethereal ball gown, which was a 2-piece that she created. So that was just amazing that she was able to do that so quickly and turn it around. And it was absolutely beautiful. But I told her, I was like, when I saw that field and I saw that church, it all of a sudden felt like I needed a ball gown. I needed to be able to like pick up and like run through, the fields with this dress, and the dress needed to fit the venue. The other dress fit, this opera house with the drama in a different way, but this needed a different kind of chic, understated, drama.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It was gorgeous and perfect. Like I said, the perfect backdrop for it as well. Wow. So was there anything else? I mean, it just seems like everything, like you said, it just fell right into place, especially once you have that date. Was there anything else that seemed like it wasn't going to work out, but it ended any like with your florals, with the girls? What about the girls' dresses?
Yeah. So girls' dresses at that point, I just said, this is a shade. Pick the dress you want. Now
Okay.
I'm a bit of everyone knows my girls that were part of it, which that was also, not some of the original folks that would have been there. We both come from a blended family, so we both have a lot of siblings. So that was primarily our siblings, our brothers, sisters, sister-in-laws, and then two of my closest friends, which this was so cool because all three of us have known each other since the fourth grade. We all got engaged within weeks of one another, and we're all had weddings planned back to back. So one friend, she had hers New Year's Eve 2019. She missed all the drama, thank
Right.
goodness. My
Right.
other girlfriend has pushed hers back, and she's getting married this July 2021. And
Okay.
I officiated one wedding and will officiate the other. But they
Oh,
both happen to live in St. Louis, so it was perfect because that was the way I was able to have two girlfriends there. I mean, otherwise I would not have. I mean, you get this, I didn't have any line sisters there. I mean, anything like that, because we really wanted to keep it tight. We had our grandmothers there, and it was just important for us to keep them safe. But
absolutely.
once I told everyone the date, I sent out, these are some dresses I'm thinking. And it came together beautifully because if there's a picture that really almost kind of went viral, and I don't even think I expected that to happen, but there's this picture with all of the girls and myself spaced out with the mask. So we had custom masks made that had our name and wedding date. And I remember wanting this picture. I kind of co-directed that picture. Our photographer I love, she did our engagement picture. So we work well together. She likes the way I think, I like the way she thinks. So I said, I've got this vision like of spacing them out almost like social distance.
Yes.
That picture
It's beautiful.
was amazing. I couldn't even believe the way that it turned out and seeing all of their dresses. So I love that because I think so often you just kind of have to wear the dress to please the bride. And listen, every bride has a right to her day, but you want to feel good and feel beautiful too. So the dresses that they had on were the dresses that they picked, that they loved, and they felt really good in. You asked me about floors. I'll say this about decor. Probably one of the favorite things about my wedding was the decor with the beautiful balloons and baby's breath and eucalyptus. Dainty Dolls. I love her. I love her. I love her. She is from Chicago. She actually knew my husband growing up and started a business. I think her business has just turned 3 years old. And I had already kind of become obsessed with these balloons because that is becoming a huge trend.
Yes.
Weddings, birthday parties, events. I mean, balloons are just fun, but they're now taking them to this amazing, gorgeous work of art. And
Yes.
so I saw some of the work that she did, and I reached out to her also 3 weeks, until this day,
Yeah.
asking if she would be able to come and build this. I mean, she drove. She had a van with her people. I got it worked out with the hotel that she was staying out. She worked it out with the hotel. She started building this installation in the hotel, then had this minivan to take some of the balloons, got there early in the morning and created that absolutely gorgeous archway going
Wow.
into the church. I mean, I was obsessed with it. That made my day because we talked about it, the vision of it, and it was so beautiful, and it just really fit the space just perfectly. And then she did the sweetheart table with our names and just kind of created this floating table look. So that really went with it also being casual. I mean, it was beautiful, but it was very free flowing kind of throughout the day. But that I love her forever for driving from, Chicago. And it was really kind of a win situation for both parties because she hadn't done an event of that magnitude out
Okay.
of the state. So she came and did an amazing job. I think the only thing that we were kind of biting our nails about is my husband got a custom suit,
Okay.
and he is 6'3", very tall, lots of legs,
Right.
guy. And he had this vision of this suit that he wanted. And it was being made in the UK. And we did not have that suit the Monday before the wedding.
Oh,
And so we were leaving Michigan, to go. to Southern Illinois. So if anything is going to ship, so he's calling, he's saying, can we change it? Can you ship it there? We started shipping things to my parents' house who were in Springfield, because at least that's an hour and 45 minutes away versus seven,
Right.
7.5 hours away. That suit came 2 days before the wedding. And, there wasn't time to do anything to it, but it fit. We had gone and gotten a backup, tux, but it wasn't something he was excited about because he had this vision of this, custom suit. So I was, happy for him because, one of the things I love about weddings these days, grooms are really showing their personal style.
Yes.
And I knew that he wanted to be able to allow his personal style to reflect.
Yes.
But other than that, I honestly think that it allowed our personality to shine in an unexpected way. It became a really playful, fun event. We also, safety was super important to us. So we had custom masks, hand sanitizer. So, as they enter the church, they almost got like a little goodie bag and an organza little drawstring bag with everything that everyone would need, to remain safe.
So let me ask you this. What was the backup if the weather hadn't cooperated? Or was there one, or was it just a lot of prayer, right?
There was so much prayer.
Yes.
Because there was no backup. There was no backup. So we had worked with the tent company.
Okay.
Because you had two things. If it rained, what were we going to do? And then it was July. If it was scorching hot.
Right, right.
And just not having a lot of options of places being open, we prayed a lot. And it just worked out to be an absolutely beautiful day. We did hire a day of coordinator, and she was there calling. She's saying, I don't think you're going to need this tent. There was enough trees that were kind of growing over that. She said, I think by the time, you move into the reception, it'll be cool enough. And I think you'll be okay. So thank you, God. It was just divinely protected because we did not have a plan.
Amen. And it's just, I've seen the pictures, shout out to Mona Lucci for your feature there. And it's just so nice to know the story behind all of the photos. And, for my clients, I've got a client wedding coming up in May, and, it's still so much uncertainty here in Michigan.
Yes.
I can kind of infer what your advice would be, but I just kind of want you to say what's some advice you would give those we're still in this, but my couples are like, I've waited long enough. I'm ready to get married. What are some words you could give them just as encouragement besides prayer, of course? Because I'm always like, we're going to just pray. We're going to pray our way through this.
We're absolutely going to pray our way through this. Friends that I have that are still waiting to get married, couples that I counsel. I'm grateful for the day that worked out for us. And just like you talked about the feature, Mona Lucci and Essence and Lori Bride. And so I got to be her model and the knot. I could never, there's no way, I did not see this, in July 2020 that it would, get all of this attention. I think if you choose, the two of you, that you, first of all, regardless of what happens, want to get married and accept that whatever happens in that day will be beautiful.
Yes, that's it.
You can't predict. With any wedding, there's always something that happens. Because, it's just, there are things that happen, but they're not important. I think the other piece is, I'm super grateful for a MicroWedding now. I got to have personal moments with every single person that was a part of our wedding. Yeah. And after so many months of not seeing family, that meant so much. But we literally were able to, stop and have a picture with almost I think every single person there. We had a picture. If it wasn't a group picture, there were some individual shots. And I can look back on that day and know that I had an amazing time. I say this because I think the biggest question that I've gotten is like, how did you handle the people that you could not invite? Mm-hmm. I think the people that really love you and are excited for you, they are excited for you to just be able to be married, and they're excited that you're, dream of becoming one. I think now we have so many options. We have learned how to use technology in really amazing, cool ways. We did stream Facebook Live to a personal group, for those who couldn't be there. But, when you get your pictures back, you could always have family come on and show the video and the pictures with, those who were not able to be there. I think there's ways to still include from a very virtual or technological sharing that makes people still feel like they're part of your day. But I think at that point, you just have to focus on each other. And this is a situation we're in. But one of the things I told my husband is let's not fight this pandemic. Like, let's embrace that this is what's happening and that we're so fortunate to be able to still get married during this time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to document that so that we can tell our grandchildren we're survivors, and we got married in this pandemic and like COVID, and with all of the tragedy and pain that we've experienced. The thing about your marriage and love is it's not just a celebration for you and your family, but I think every wedding I've seen in this season has just made me go, oh, because we are looking for those nuggets and bits of joy. So I think you like have to just laugh and not take yourself too serious. Be open to something outside the box. I never would have thought I was going to get married in Waterloo, Illinois, and it was the most amazing venue and space and experience that I could have ever had. And I think when we allow ourselves to just be open to what is meant to be instead of what we thought what we had in mind, that is when the most beautiful things can happen.
Yes. And look what happened. Amazing. I'm just one more question. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious as far as, because this is the other thing my clients are going through. Were there any folks you invited who just said, no, I don't feel comfortable attending?
Yes. And you know what? You have to be okay with that and not take it personal.
Yes.
And so we started by saying that I was nervous to even tell people like we're going to go ahead and get married, but it's okay. You know, we did phone calls with like siblings and folks, and we said like, it's okay if you don't feel comfortable. So we had some no's, and then we had some follow-up questions. You know, we had follow-up questions of people, how many people are going to be there? Is it, you know, it is outdoor, is it church, you know, so things of reassuring people that we're going to do everything that we could to keep them safe, because I honestly, more than the weather, I prayed about that so deeply, because I just would not have want someone to have left our day and to become ill. But I had a couple, you know, in that tight list, there was still like a cousin that was like, no, I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable. And that's okay.
Yes. I'm telling my couples, I'm like, you want this 300 guest list, but how many of those are actually going to come? I know you want them there, but I don't know how many of them are going to feel comfortable actually attending. They want to be there, I'm sure, but some are just not comfortable in large crowds. So,
and I think if we can just, you know, take the pressure off of people saying it's okay, we understand.
Yes, you know? Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was just
like
I was just reading, you know, back in third grade, just listen to my teacher tell a story. And like I said, I've been looking at pictures, and it's just so nice to know the story behind it and to know that in the end, everything is going to be okay. And, you know, as a wedding coordinator, you know, I'm the one that's always like, I'm gonna make it happen. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. So thank you so much for your
time. I'll just add this piece, if you don't mind. I mean, the one thing about a micro wedding or a reduced guest list, it allows you to maybe do some other things, you know, because anytime you have a larger guest list, there's a pro and con, you know, you're weighing what's most important. You know, for some people, is it the entertainment? You know, we know the food and alcohol, you know, those things that have big costs to it. But one thing about scaling, you know, back, it allows you to do some of those personal touches.
Yes.
With having a smaller guest list, and most of our family all stayed at the same hotel for the most part. There were little things that we were able to do that were just a little bit more special because people were, you know, coming and traveling. There were just other things that we took care of at the hotel that, you know, perhaps with a larger guest list, you would not be able to offer those type of accommodations to show your appreciation, you know, during such a challenging, uncertain time for people to come. So I think that, you know, just because it's micro doesn't mean you have to skimp on style or your personality by any way. And then that also gives you the room to lean in just a little bit more with maybe some of those things you wouldn't have been able to do.
Yes. And I love how you said, you know, you were able to get a picture with everyone. Like you have memories from everyone who was there that day. That's
I really do. I mean, we've all been to those weddings where it was beautiful, but you didn't even greet the bride and groom.
Right. Absolutely. I think micro weddings are, I mean, you know, we are finding that this pandemic is showing us a lot of things. And I believe micro weddings are going to be around for a long time. So
I agree with you so much, Lori, because I think that there's a point of remembering, is this wedding for other people if it's for you, you know, and there's always that challenge. I know there's a lot of people that you feel like you need to please in that day, but micro weddings allow it to really be a time that you get to enjoy with those who are present.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. No, thank you. I know you're busy, you're pastoring, and I got to give a shout out. I forgot to mention your husband's name, D'Anthony McKenzie. So shout out to him. And I just wish you many years of love, children, family,
Thank you.
everything your
Thank
heart
you.
desires, and much success to you. You know, I'm in the AME family, so
Yes,
I'll see
yes.
you around. Yeah. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I look forward to that. That's one of the things about the pandemic. I moved here in January.
Yes.
And I haven't got to fellowship or meet a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to the dawn of a new day, getting on the other side of this and getting to know folks in my community and backyard and, build some friendships. So we'll have to connect sometime
I would
soon.
love that. Yes, I would love that. And your broadcast is wonderful. I've been watching, your Facebook Live. So
Oh,
you're doing
thank
your
you.
thing. So keep doing what God says to do. And bless you and D'Anthony. And for those who are watching or listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Before the Big Day podcast. And until next time, be well.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take
Oh,
care.